everybody, and welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Charlie K. Matthews. If you haven't done it yet, go ahead and follow me on social media, any of the platforms. And also, I want you to do a review. I was looking and I just noticed that we haven't had any reviews in a while, and I haven't asked you. So I wanted to just ask and see if that made a difference. But I do have a really special guest that I met through a client, but I was really intrigued by his story. And so, without further delay, Jim, jump on the mic and introduce yourself.
Hello, Charlie's audience. How are you?
Awesome. I love it.
My name is Jim Nowakowski. I've been in business to business for over 30 years. I have several websites, several companies. We do research, data. Interlinegroup.com is the main one. And a-i-m.com is the research company. And there's others, but those are the ones that have driven my business for the last 30 years. So it's been a great experience. As you can imagine, if you've been in business 30 years, you've seen a lot of this, right? Oh, roller coaster.
Well, they definitely know that from being in my audience, Jim, definitely talking through some of that. But, I do think that it's interesting how marketing, media, data, all of that has changed. But let's start off how you got into it. Why did you decide to go into marketing?
Well, I was fired for the third time, and I decided, basically, I told my wife, I can keep being a creative director, making lots of money in agencies, or try this on my own. And I went off on my own and I never looked back. That was 1990. I used to be an English teacher and I did that for 10 years. I'm a man of many different things. But I've really always had an authority problem. So now only clients can fire me. So
Yeah.
that's really good news.
Hey, but the other side of that is you can fire clients if you needed to as well.
I've done, actually.
I have fired one client for being a mean client.
Yeah.
But Jim, I think that we do have that kind of nature of or similarity of being fired when you're kind of pushing and moving people, because we see the future and we see the things that are important, and maybe it doesn't align with that company. So I do appreciate that, being an entrepreneur, being able to shift very easily with the market, with what our customers' needs are, and what the industry needs, and kind of being that thought leader. And I'm seeing that from you, Jim. I was looking and just kind of our conversation, and just kind of understanding that you've done a lot of research, on this topic about the changes and how we can be successful in marketing today. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that, of just as you've built your company, what you've seen in the changes from the start to now.
Well, entrepreneur to Charlie's audience, who have entrepreneurs in the audience, I think flexibility is probably the key, and resiliency, because we've reinvented ourselves almost every day since, you go into business. When I hired my first employee based on a client telling me they're going to give us, their data to manage, which was a big, big association. It's one of the automotive associations, the SAE. And then I hire the person, and then they tell me the deal's off. I go, now what do I do? So you have to be resilient. And having built the company to 25 people at its peak, what I saw is really the market is really grounded on communication, which served me well, because being an English major, that's what I do. I majored in English, and I still don't understand English. I try to understand it, but I don't understand.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I love that background, though, because you do have to have a lot of messaging and what are we going to say about this product or this, event or whatever. It takes words, and, marketers, they do. We have a lot of things that, we need to have that beautiful, picturesque or graphic that can use, but there's got to be meaningful words behind it too. So I do agree with you on the.
Well, you also know, having with your background, in the old days before the internet, you had magazines that reached audiences, and that's the only way, if you're in B2B, to get your message to an audience. But then when the internet happened, boom, the horses left the barn, and they're everywhere. And publishers ran around. And that's one of the things you did, is you realized the horses are out of the barn, so I better corral something. And you created, you're empowering, aura, and there you are. You're growing. You're not, you're doing things very different than normal publishers who are still wondering, why don't they buy print anymore? Just so understanding how communication happens, and today with multiple channels and all these social media channels, a marketer faces really an overabundance of choices. And that when you have too many choices, you get confused and you end up doing nothing, or you're making the wrong choice. And that really hurts you in the long term, maybe not immediately. Like, for example, I used to have advertisers in the old days that went dark for a year or two, and they would be worried. I said, don't worry. You can go dark for a year or two, nothing's going to happen, because people will know you left. What do you mean they won't know you left? Well, they won't know in the print days. Nowadays, if you're not there, people are talking, they see it immediately. Where's this company? I thought they were here. And because they're used to being bombarded by messages from everybody, a competitor, a company, the company's competitors, the wannabes, the people who have status. So being bombarded, what the receiver of the message does is he tunes out immediately. He gets too many. I had an experience where we were doing an email campaign for a client, and one of my IT guys comes running into my office and says, Jim, there's a guy in the phone. He's really ticked off. I go, well, what's he want? He wants to know where we got his name. So I said, give me that call. So I got on the phone. Let's call him Harry. And he was just angry. Where did you get my name? I'm getting deluged with blah, blah, blah. I said, Harry, calm down. We'll take you off the list. No problem. We got the list actually from the client who bought it from a third party, which had a database, theoretically of good names. And it was a construction database. So it's validated. But no one would tell him where they got their name, but I did. I said, no, we got it from so-and-so. Here's why. Don't worry about it. I'll take you off. And then there's silence. Hello, Harry? You still there? Yeah. Hey, listen, Jim, I want to thank you. What do you mean? Well, I just want to thank you. I've been getting 100 emails a minute, and no one's taken the time to talk to me except you. And we had a 2-minute conversation. And before we ended, he said, by the way, I'm not the guy you want for this project. I go, really? It says here, no. I've moved on from that project. The guy you want is Paul. And he gave me the guy's name, email, phone number, right? And he was controlling all of the Kroger stores in the United States, the specifications. So that's the guy. You can't do that unless you interface with clients. You can't do that unless you interface with people. You can't do that unless you communicate with people. And you can't certainly do that if you're afraid to talk because you made a mistake, you see?
Oh, that's so good.
What you do is you turn that lemon into lemonade constantly. And you don't win all the time. I mean, I could tell you the horror stories. But if you're not afraid to learn, if you're not afraid to make a mistake, how do you not learn? How do you not progress? So to me, communication has always been the key. And ask yourself that too, and your audience can ask. When anything goes south, if you look for the root cause, it's a communication. I didn't read the whole email. I didn't see the specification. Something happened and it changed from centimeters to inches, blah, 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 blah. There's always a communication at the root cause of anything that goes south. And if you can find that, then Kaizen, Japanese, right? Kaizen teaches us, eliminate that so you never make the mistake again.
I can tell well, I was going to say, I hear industry in everything that you're saying. And so, of course, root cause, we can talk about that in equipment, but it always comes down to the people that you have on the team and why they might do something a certain way, what was happening in their life that day, all kinds of things. Yes. And so the part of humans, that's what we are. I love that about our business. I get to celebrate all of the people that are doing amazing work out in the field. But there's part of that of getting that message out that we had to kind of look at, why is it changing? Go back to print, that's where I started selling print advertising and event space. but that change is because of technology and, the ability for us to, notice somebody not at an event and, text our friends and be like, where are they at? Where are they? And so there's that ease, but it is technology that's allowed those things to happen. But how can we use it to better what we know we want to do, which is for us, share stories of other people, knowledge, the ability to troubleshoot equipment, and the latest and greatest in technology and trends and all. So that is what has shifted. What are people doing now with that? Are they?
Well, and again, this is only Nowakowski's opinion. They rely too much on the automation. And when you do that, what happens is you really become complacent, and you also don't get a chance to. I was gonna figure out how to say this in a clever way. You can take the technology out of a human, but you can never take the human out of technology. Once you do that, once you take that human out of technology, that's it. And the most recent example of that is AI. I cannot tell you how exciting this is. It's very dangerous.
I know.
You know,
I love working on it, but I laugh too because if I use it and it uses words like delighted, we laugh about that. I'm like, who says the word delighted in normal conversation? Like, this is not it's like, red flag that I've used AI kind of thing. And so I'm like, how do I get myself into this tool, right? To make it actually work for me. And
well,
so it's really fun.
you bend it. We had a saying since I opened the office that we don't bend to the software, we bend the software to us. And when you say that, you really understand that a software is a system, a package, and it's built to really do things in that environment. So it's hard to bend it to your will, but I can give you an example. We use IP reverse lookup technology, which is sold as CRM. It's sold as a customer relationship management system. We never used it like that because it gives us too much rich data on how a person travels and goes through a website. Not the person, but the IP address, which is, by the way, some person driving that visit. And as you watch that person, I wrote an article on this called B2B Never Sleeps. B2B never sleeps. And if you read that, and you can Google it, Google gives me first ranking. If you read that, it basically tells you the journey of a visitor on a website. So for example, your audience is being evaluated now by companies, by prospects, by their own customers, and they don't even know it. They're being accepted and rejected by companies, and they don't even know it. And that's so important in communication because I have a love-hate relationship with Google, right? They're the richest company in the world. They make a lot of money on people buying search terms. I had a client who was buying $5,000 a month, and I keep telling them, you don't need that. You just need content. No, I got to buy this. I got to be there. Okay, whatever. But you don't. And that's unfortunately, that's how people find your audience, find you, find me. They go on Google. So Google has the currency, right? They have the leverage. So how do you beat Google without paying them? How do you do that? Well, you do it by content. And then their little spiders will rank you, and eventually you'll end up on the first grouping. And by the way, they used to give you pages. They stopped that about 4 months ago. They don't give you, now it's just a continuous scrolling because they figured out people are trying to be on page one. I'm not going to give them that. So Google's a smart company,
I love it. Okay, so let me ask you about YouTube because YouTube's number 2, only to number 1. How do you feel like
who owns YouTube?
I know exactly. Though we were just talking about Google, y'all owns YouTube, and so I think it's amazing the amount of content that is on YouTube, and today it just continues to grow. Are you seeing industry pick up that strategy in a way that plays in the YouTube space, or are they still using it as like a way to archive videos and things like that?
I think both, but it's like learning even the internet. You got some people that are early adapters that will realize the power of video, and then other people who just use it, casually. But what you really got to think about with video is really the power of that, because it is all visual, right? Not to neglect words, because words are important. You show a picture on your website, Google can't see pictures. It only sees,
That's right.
meta
And
tags.
even in YouTube, right? Like you have to actually put in words. You
Right.
have to have, the snippets or whatever that are on your images. There's so much there, and how we stay up to date and how we educate each other. You know, I think that's part of that research piece.
One of the big arguments our clients we're hearing is really, do we use it to educate, and how do you educate our audiences? So you have various portals that go out and they aggregate content of video, the client's content, put it on their channel, and then somehow trap the client. It's the wrong word, but it's true. They trap the client into their system, and then the distributor or something has to go to the system to take the training course, which is fine. But if you're looking for a designer of systems, that engineer, designer, a specifier, he doesn't really care. He doesn't want to know what the distributor knows. He wants something else, types of information. So that channel, that trap they're in there, doesn't serve that purpose because their audience is different. Hence, you go back to that whole idea of the horses leaving the barn. The audiences are everywhere, and it's up to clients, you, me, everyone, to figure out where's that audience that the client wants to reach. Most of the time, it's a partnership with the client and someone, I'm not blowing smoke, someone like yourself, or someone who understands that the audience is no longer captive. The only captive audience is really the clients, and even then, they're not captive, because the competitor is coming along trying to rob them from that audience. So it's really a wonderful Wild Wild West show, and very exciting, and you're never bored, right?
Yeah,
So
100%, 100%. That it's
so
just
the
constant
training,
learning.
right? The training is like AIA credits or ASPE credits or some type of credit, which a lot of times those portals don't do. You know, so our advice is really find your audience, what you want to do, and then eventually put the eyeballs on your own website. That's really where they belong.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just go back to what you started with the communication. Like you you can have all the names, and we people get kind of wrapped up about getting all the names and all the leads and all these things, but then what happens with them, right? And so like I love being able to bring people together, like, and to have real conversations. We're having Epic. It's the Empowering Pumps and Industry Conference. I didn't come up with that clever Epic. Vince did. But we're going to be at the Colorado School of Mines, and I feel like I'm learning so much about energy and mining and water. That is all the different jobs and career paths that come out of that school, aerospace, even. It's just you want to just say they're all about mining, and that's not it, right? But so you have to just have the conversation and get to know people. And I think that that's the same across the board with any type of building relationships. Yes, we need names and connections and getting in front of people. How do we obtain that? But then it's up to us, like you said, what is the problem? Let me help solve it. Let me be there for you, be a support person. And that's what really makes them stay with you and want to work with you.
And a lot of times it's difficult to define the problem. What you just said, one of the hardest things to do now is get in front of people to have the conversation, because there's just no time. People are so busy, as the labor crisis, finding qualified people, continues to be a problem. It's hard to find the right person, much less get in front of the right person, much less have one person like in the old days with the cigar. I make all the decisions, get back on, I'll make the decision. Now you got a team, because people just don't make single decisions. Although there are people who pull that trigger. In any case, getting in front and having the conversation is key. And from your mining example, I think you have to just be a lifelong learner, because you never know when that one fact is you're gonna need that one fact that person is looking for, and suddenly there it is. You have knowledge that they don't have. If you can demonstrate that knowledge that no one else has, that's one of the key. We have two pillars: service and unduplicated knowledge. That's how I started the company 30 years ago. Service, I figured with only when I started it, no one's going to work 24 hours a day like me. And I can beat you because there's no 25th hour. And then when I needed more hours, you just hire people, right? And that's how you compete with technology, who gives me the ability to compete with big companies. It does. I'm not saying it doesn't. Without technology, I would be, whatever. And then unduplicated knowledge, which I believe when I started, I had by being a creative director for all those years at B2B agencies. But then the internet came along and blew up that idea, because knowledge, everybody believes Google, right? You shouldn't, but you do. And you can go on Google, and then you got to figure out, well, how do I put my unduplicated knowledge without giving it away? And you realize quickly you have to give it away. You have to give something away in order to get something. So you got to trust people. And therein lies the communication. If you want to circle back to the beginning of the conversation, I don't know how you do business with people you don't trust. My wife says, you trust people too much. I said, how do you trust 80%? I only trust you to 80%, Charlie. You can't. You either do or you don't. It's a do or don't die, right? So anyway, that's what we find is that ability. It's hard to get in front of people now. It's hard to gain trust, but it's very easy to lose it. Very easy. One mistake, get out of here. Or as the president of a company told me once, you're only as good as your last ad, Joe. Oh, okay.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Well, hopefully we've moved a little bit into the positive from that. But I do hear you. I do hope people do make mistakes, especially in
Well,
social.
Duke Ellington said, a mistake is a chance to show your best. And I've always remembered that. I don't know if you're a jazz, Duke Ellington was a great jazz guy. And when I read that, a problem is a chance to show your best, or a mistake is a chance to show your best. And when you do that, you write to the sound of the guns. And I've never been disappointed by that. I really always say, yeah, it's my fault.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. I mean, I think that we don't even know what showing that piece of ourselves, how that helps other people, because we all aren't perfect, okay, and we all don't know what. I mean, we're trying to figure out what we need to support all of this innovation that we have. We still are in the creation process, if you will, of what we need. So there's so much there. Jim, I am running out of time with you. I wish I had an hour for sure. I want to just quick rapid fire. I want people to get to know you a little bit. What is your favorite book?
well, I'm an English major, so I have many, many, many favorite books. My favorite author
Okay.
is Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Okay. What about music?
Music, I'm a swing guy, so Benny
Oh,
Goodman,
I love swing dancing. It's the best. Okay. What were you going to say?
Benny Goodman, Artie Shaw, people like that.
Wonderful. Okay.
But not
Yep.
opposed to the 80s music, 60s, 70s, 80s.
All music. Here, Jim likes to dance. What about the best advice you've ever seen or heard or gotten? I've been saying this too many times today. What is the best advice you've ever received?
I have several tidbits. One of my favorites is, once you begin a gesture, it's fatal not to carry it through. So if you're thinking about doing something, think a long time. But once you start, don't stop.
I love
That's,
it. Okay, last question.
I
If you were
feel,
gonna,
am I passing?
you're doing great. I mean, excellent. Okay, so if you were talking to a young professional coming out of marketing, what advice would you give them?
Be a sponge and learn discipline.
I love it. I love it.
Discipline,
Yeah, be a sponge. Because I mean, it's honestly, it for all our marketers out there, we feel your pain. It's a constant changing environment, but it's exciting too. It's fun. And so for us creative people, that's why I love social media. I see its power. I love the ability to connect people. Like I'm getting to connect everyone with you, Jim. How do you want people to find you?
You can go to interlinegroup.com. My email is jim@interlinegroup.com, interlinegroup.com. Or you can just Google Interline Group, will come up, whatever. There's lots of ways you can use Charli. She'll refer you.
Yeah, I'm gonna put all that in the show notes.
Okay.
And I just thank you for your time, Jim. I enjoy these conversations. So let's do it again
So
sometime.
did I. So did I, Charli. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So y'all share this episode, send it to your current or one of your marketing friends. Jim, you got something else you want to add?
I was going to just say, send me the link so I could share it on my channels.
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
Okay, so y'all share the episode. Don't forget that review. Let us know you've heard the episode, and also send me a cool person that I need to interview. I love getting to know new people on the mic too. So until next time, everyone, be empowering.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.